So next we're moving on to lesson 12, which we are talking about negative rates. Evaluate each expression when the answer is not a whole number. Oh, this is important. Not a whole number. Write your answer as a fraction. Oh, fractions are our friends. Perfect. Okay, so the first one. Oh, this is a very straightforward one. We've got 4 times 6, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows is 24. And then I count my number of negatives. There are 2 negatives. 2 negatives makes them happy. It's an even number, so that is positive 24. Next, we've got a beautiful fraction. I am loving that. So we know we need to put this over 1, so we've got 2 fractions. We're not dividing, so we just go straight to keep the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. So 24 times 7, well, 20 times 7 is 140. Let's keep this up here so I can remember 140. And 4 times 7 is, of course, 28. So if I add those together, I get 168. 1 times 6 is 6. Oh, that tiny little 6 is going to get squished if it stays under that big, giant 168. So I have to figure out how many times does 6 go into 168, or if it doesn't, then I have to find the gazenta they share. So let's first of all look at how many times 6 goes into 168. So 6 doesn't go into 1, so we'd start there. 6 does go into 16 2 times, and 2 times 6 is 12. 16 minus 12 leaves us with 4, so that gives me 48. So I put the 4 there. Well, that is a silly, terrible, horrible, I don't know what is up. That is so sad. Okay, I fixed it. That is a 4. Okay, 6 goes into 48. Well, hopefully you know your times tables and know that 48 divided by 6 is 8. So we looked out there that 6 does go into 168 evenly. And then all we have to do is count that there's 1, 2 negative signs. So this is, again, a positive answer, positive 28. The next problem, 4 divided by negative 6. Okay, well, I can already tell that this is going to be a fraction because I've got the smaller number divided by the larger number, 4 divided by 6. The best I can do is reduce it. So what's the gazenta they share? The gazenta they share, of course, is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. There's only 1 negative, so my final answer is negative. And then our next one. Now I'm dividing fractions for this one. I'm going to put that over 1. Oh boy. Keep the first. Flip the second, then you multiply. Keep the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 24. Well, hopefully you know that's like having 3 days, which is 72 hours. If you didn't know that before, know it now. Is there a gazenta they share? Well, of course there is. 4 goes into both of those. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 72 divided by 4. Well, 4, if I don't just know that, I can say 4 goes into 7 once with 3 left over. And then 32, 4 goes into 32, of course, 8 times. So that leaves me with 1/18. There's only 1 negative right there. So my final answer is negative 1/18. Fractions are our friends. That was fun. Okay, here we are. Some boats are traveling up and down a river. A satellite recorded the movements of several boats. A motorboat traveled negative 3.4 miles per hour for 0.75 hours. Well, That's simple enough. We simply need to multiply these together to find out how far that it went. So negative 3.4 times 0.75. Well, hopefully you remember how to multiply. Now I know some of you use the chart and some of you do it, the more traditional way. It does not matter which way you do it. For now, I'm going to ignore my decimal places and simply do my multiplication. I like to do it like this. So that means I'm going to have 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 more is 17. Put a 0 down placeholder. 7 times 4, of course, is 28. Carry a 2 again. That's convenient that I left it there. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 2 more is 23. I'm going to add these together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5. And then I've just got a 2 here. And then I need to count up the number of decimal places. Well, there's 1, 2, 3. So that means I move this one in 1, 2, 3 times. So that means the answer is going to be 2.55. I've only got one negative, so that's an odd number. So my answer is negative 2.55. Next one, we've got a tugboat that is traveling negative 1.5 miles in 0.3 hours. What is its velocity? Well, that's just means miles per hour. Okay, so that means I'm going to put miles per hour, just like we said. So we've got negative 1.5 miles over 0.3 hours. You see how that works? And now I know I can't leave those decimals in the spot where they are because I can't divide by a decimal. I move this one to the end, like the period at the end of a sentence. That's one place. Move the top one place. So that's going to give me 15 divided by 3, which I know is 5. There is one negative, so that's negative 5 miles per hour. What do you think the negative distances and velocities could mean in this situation? Well, negative, we typically think about that as going down. So negative would probably mean going down the river as opposed to going up the river. Next, a submarine is only allowed to change its depth by rising toward the surface in 60-meter stages. It starts off at negative 340 meters. Okay, that's a safety thing. I don't know if you knew that. That's a science thing. If you come up too fast, it's very dangerous. Okay, negative 340 is where it starts, and it's going to go up towards the surface 60 meters at a time. Okay, so the first stage, I'm going to start at negative 340, and I'm going to add 60 to it. This is fun. I get to sing again, and I'm going to look at these two numbers. I'm adding, so I get to go straight to, if the signs are the same, find the sum. They're not the same. If the signs are different, find the difference. Oh, they sure are different. So that means I find the difference of these absolute values of both of these numbers. How far away is negative 340 from 0? That would be 340. How far away is 60 from 0? That would be 60. I'm going to find their difference, 340 minus 60. Well, I know 340 minus 40 is 300. Out of that 60, already went to 40. I need to go 20 more. So that would land us at 280. And then I take the the sign of the larger absolute value, which of course is this one. So therefore, the sign is negative 280 meters after one stage. 2 stages. Okay. So I know for every stage it's going to go 60 meters. So I'm still going to start at negative 340. I'm going to add 60 to it 2 times. 2 times 60. So I'm going to put that in the parentheses because that would be something I'd have to do first. 2 times 60. And that remains positive because it's going up. So that means I've got negative 340. I always do, order of operations tells me to do the things that are in parentheses first. So that means I do 2 times 60, which I know is 120. So that will give me negative 340 plus 120. And just like above, the signs are different. Find the difference. Here we are. Absolute value of both of them. So that gives me 340 here minus 120. Well, 300 minus 100 is 200. 40 minus 20 is 20. So that means our new height will be 220 meters. Nope, I have to look at the sign. In this case, it's negative because my larger absolute value is here, so it's negative 220 meters. Okay, 4 stages. Well, I'm going to follow along and use the same format that I did for my last one. So I'm always going to start at negative 340, and then I'm going up, so I'm going to add to it 4 stages, so it's 4 stages of 60, so that would be 4 times 60. That would be 240, so that would lead me to negative 340 plus 240. Signs are still different. Find the difference. So I've got these both here. I would have 340 minus 240, which of course is going to give us 100. And I know that I would take the larger absolute value, the sign of the larger absolute value, which would be negative. So after 4 stages, I'm still at negative 100 meters. Next part of this problem says, how many stages will it take to return to the surface? Well, I'm going to use that work that I just did because I know that when at 4 stages, after 4 stages, I was still at negative 100 meters. So if I take negative 100 and I add 60 to it, now these are getting easier to do. You should be able to recognize and be able to do that in your head. The difference of 160 is 40. I'm still negative. So that's, of course, 5 stages. But we're still not at the surface. So that means I would have to do negative 40 plus 60 more. Signs are still different, but this time it's 60 minus 40 is 20, and that would be positive. So I've now reached the surface. Even though I'm above the surface, it doesn't matter. I have to count that entire stage. So that means it would take 6 stages. There you go.